Hello and welcome to another episode of Collab with Kiva. I am your host, Kiva Slade, and today I want to talk to you about the importance of clear communication, especially as it relates to teamwork. So, many of you know I work with teams, and oftentimes these topics come up as things that I see in my work. And so, clear communication is like the foundation of effective teamwork. There's other things that get folded in and added to that recipe, but really, clear communication cannot be overstated in how important it is. It really helps ensure that everyone on the team is on the same page, understands their roles and responsibilities, and can collaborate efficiently towards achieving your business goals. So, whether you have a small team of remote contractors or you're a solopreneur and you're considering expanding your team, mastering the art of clear communication is crucial. If you tuned into the last episode, we actually talked with Miri and Mima, and we were talking about preserving your culture as you scale. Well, clear communication, if you have that nailed down when your team is small, when you scale, oh my goodness, it will do so much more for you and your team as you are looking to preserve that culture. And I'm always reminded of the words of Brene Brown. Clear is kind. Unclear? Unkind. So why should we focus on clear communication? Now let me paint a picture for you. You delegate a task to a team member, but you fail to provide clear instructions or deadlines. Without clear communication, the team member may not fully understand what is expected, leading to misunderstandings and potentially costly errors. By clearly communicating your expectations and providing concise instructions, you set your team up for success. Recently, and I've observed, there was communication where there were some things that were needed, and it wasn't spelled out all of what was needed. And that literally led to a 2-week delay in getting the things done because the person worked on what was asked. Then it was like, oh no, we also wanted this. Oh, but we also, so they worked on that. Then they came back with, oh, and we also wanted this. If all the things were spelled out in the beginning, the person who was doing the work could have done all the things and gotten it back to you in a very timely manner. But without it being shared and being clear, there was so much back and forth. And when you're having that back and forth, something that not everyone focuses on is that is impacting your productivity of the team and the business. It's also impacting your labor costs. Because if you could have given the person the to-do with all the list of the things that you wanted, in most cases, they can knock that out faster than you going back and forth with them on what you wanted because you couldn't be clear in the beginning. So we start impacting the profitability of our projects and our work when we have this unclear communication taking place. So another aspect, though, of clear communications is really around setting expectations. And this is really directed at business owners. I've seen many times where people assume or expect, hey, we just hired such and such, and they're going to be able to take over everything. Why don't they know how to do this? Da, 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 da. Many cases there aren't SOPs. There isn't clear communication that's taking place. So it's really important as business owners to manage your expectations. You recognize team members, they don't fully even understand you or your business or those intricacies on the first day, the first week, the first 2 weeks, in most cases, the first 30 days. They're still trying to figure out your tone, your clients, what does that look like? And you need to provide them with the necessary information and the context in which to perform the task effectively. I had someone I was working with, and they wanted something from a team member. Sounds like they had communicated a lot of things verbally, things weren't written down. this, that, and the other. And there was no paper trail, email trail, whatever kind of trail. There were no breadcrumbs of this information. So therefore, another team member couldn't even step in to help because the stuff just didn't exist. And you can't expect people to make stuff up out of what doesn't exist. And so again, setting those expectations that, hey, I'm going to communicate with you via phone because I like that. However, my expectation is that after we have our phone call, you will create a bullet list of what we talked about and what those action items are. Those action items will go into our project management tool. You will add me as blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, so that information, if it had been communicated and followed up on, if someone else on the team was able to step in, they would have actually found things that would have been helpful. But in this particular case, there was nothing to find because the person did not write anything down. There weren't any action items. Oh, and by the way, they up and quit. So really, like, they just totally left the business owner hanging. But in that lack of good, clear communication, there was nothing anyone else on the team could do to help fill that void. And that isn't a good feeling for anyone involved. So it's really important to set your expectations. What is it that you want team members to do? You may not have all of your SOPs laid out. Granted, that's fine and dandy. However, if there are Loom videos or if there are checklists of the things that you want to see done and what your expectations are, at least someone has something in which to work off of instead of having absolutely nothing. And to that point, another aspect, and this is like really more operational aspect, is naming conventions. Establishing these as soon as you can in your business is so helpful because clear naming conventions, it feels like a small detail, I get it, but it can have a significant impact on your team's efficiency. When files, documents, they have consistent and intuitive names, not just intuitive to you as the owner, but intuitive to the team. The team members can easily locate, access them without really wasting time searching and also having to circle back for clarification, like over and over and over again. And this one came up because I took a course and it really did talk about these importance of naming conventions, especially if you have done any coding. You have change logs and it's like important to note like what was changed in this particular iteration. So having consistent naming conventions was a huge part of one module of the course. And I've been trying to implement that in my own business and, I share it with clients. But imagine you're like, hey, go find an email about a corporate event that we did and repurpose that for this next one. Well, you type in, like your team member types in corporate event, nothing comes up. That's an actual email. Corporate whatever floral or corporate, sales event, corporate whatever kind of event it is, and nothing comes up. And so now you're having them try to figure out, what is actually that I should search for now? But if we had naming conventions, we could actually alleviate that. And I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like I know words that are in my emails and or files, but it doesn't matter how much I search. Google never gives me those documents. So having naming conventions is super important. And when you have things that come together in terms of a file, maybe it is an email, like you have a draft email, a template, put that in an document, in an SOP, and name it. That way, if people can't find it in the email, they can at least find it in your files. And that way, again, you're increasing your team's efficiency. And I'll be honest, many of us work with remote teams, which in and of itself poses another barrier to clear communication, because sometimes the way we communicate is different. There's US English, there's the Queen's English, there's uses of S's versus Z's, and so many other things. But there's also cultural differences that come into play. So when you have remote teams, and sometimes you're overcoming language barriers, cultural norms in order to have effective communication. And I think that that's where check-in meetings, things like Loom, Slack are so helpful. Most project management tools now have the ability to leave a voice note, or a quick video. And that allows that other party to not only see what you're saying in many instances, but hear what you're saying. And the two together help bridge that communication gap that can sometimes exist. Of course, like I've said, regular team meetings are also helpful, where people can get updates and ask their necessary questions. You want to create a sense of belonging. Again, we're talking about preserving culture and like alignment, because you have a physical distance, but that doesn't mean that your team has to feel distant from one another or disconnected from one another. And sometimes as a CEO, you might talk to Sally and you're talking to John and Mary and Bob, but Bob, Mary, John, and Sally never talk to one another. Maybe you don't even have weekly or bi-weekly team meetings. So your team never has the ability to develop cohesive relationships, which goes a long way in having good communication. Because when your team gets to know each other, communicate with each other about different things, they have more grace to extend to one another when communication may be a bit off or might be missing. So it's really important to bridge those communication gaps, and weekly check-ins and or using Slack, audio tools, video tools are super helpful. And I mean, the reality of the situation is poor communication can have negative consequences for your business. Misunderstandings, miscommunications, those as shared lead to delays. They lead to things having to be done over again, which means what? You're paying for something more than once. It can also lead to strained client relationships. And that back and forth that took 2 weeks, that meant a client wasn't getting what they were paying for in a timely manner. So you can impact your client relationships as well through poor communication skills. And again, this also impacts your productivity. It increases your cost, and that impacts your profitability, which is important for most of us. So as you are thinking through, how can I be more clear so that I can be more kind in my communication, I want to leave you with these 3 tips. Clearly communicate expectations and deadlines when delegating tasks. If you are using a project management tool, no task should go into that tool without someone who owns it and a date that it's due. So again, clearly communicate expectations and deadlines when you're delegating. Number 2, establish some consistent naming conventions for files and folders, just to enhance organization and also help out with that team efficiency. In addition to that, schedule regular check-ins. Create a culture of open communication to ensure your team members have opportunities to seek clarification and ask questions of you as the business owner. Because no matter how many people you've hired in your business, there are things that only you know, because you birthed this baby and you took care of it in the beginning. You were the sole provider for it. So there are things that only you know. Sometimes clients come through referrals only. So there are things you know about clients that no one else is going to know. But your team might need to know those things. And if you don't have opportunities and don't create opportunities for this open connection, they won't know those things. But I guarantee you, you will be frustrated when they do something that indicates that they don't know these things. They cannot read your mind. They are not mind readers. No one on their best day is showing up saying, how can I royally fail today? How can I really screw up my client's business? That's not happening. However, there are many owners who are feeling like that's the kind of team that they have. And those owners need to take a look in the mirror, because leadership starts at the top and that filters down. Clear communication starts at the top and it filters down. So enhance your communication skills. Know how to communicate with your team, and your team will then communicate well with you as well, and they'll communicate well with one another, which in many cases is what you're actually going for, so that you can step out of some of the doing roles that you have as an owner. But until that clear communication is taking place, that is going to be difficult. Sorry, not sorry to tell you that. So, thanks for joining me today for this episode on the importance of clear communication, especially as it relates to teamwork. Remember, clear communication is key to effective collaboration and achieving your business goals. And dare I say, it also has an impact on your what? Business intelligence, because it impacts your profitability as well as your labor costs. So set clear expectations, have those regular check-ins, and work on how you are communicating, because that will filter down to the rest of your team. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.